Teams versus the best. So top 8 versus top 8, Lynch. And have a look at the ladder and see what that tells us. Tells us the form line of versus the best sides. And have a look there. Any surprises that jump out there?
Cats.
The Cats are
way out in front.
Obviously way out in front. Only losing to Collingwood by a goal. So it reads even better than 8-1. Hawks 5-3 is pretty strong. There's a couple of shocks in there for me. I thought, you know, the performance of the Kangaroos to get 3 against the top 8, it highlights how disappointing their year actually is. Freo is a good talking point, isn't it? They had a draw in there as well against the Sydney Swans. So there's a bit of movement there. You can just see the Hawks, even though they've had the 3 losses, there's a 7-point and a 10-point to Geelong and beaten handsomely by Richmond. So it's probably not as bad as it reads.
No, and that's an interesting one with Hawthorn because every other game against the top 8 sides, the average winning margin is about 50 points. They've smacked the other teams off the park. So obviously the one for Richmond was a bit of a turn-up and they've got some concerns about the Cats.
Let's go against the top 4 now, really refine and see if it gives us any guide towards the pointy end of the year.
What it tells us is that whatever happens when Geelong play a good team, they are the best.
Well, they love playing against the best. So I think that does tell you that. I mean, they've had a couple of games where they've fallen asleep at the wheel and allowed Brisbane to overrun them. But when it gets to the pointy end, when it gets sharp, they're right there to play. Hawks, as we know, a couple of surprises here for me again. You know, the Richmond form is really sort of stacking up, and it just shows you that maybe it's not a false economy. It is actually where they sit on the ladder.
What about Sydney and Freo?
Sydney and Freo are the ones to have a look at. Bit of a surprise there, bit of a shock.
Oh, they're genuinely surprised by those tests because, I mean, we rate Sydney as the measuring stick, and you just think they've got the game that stacks up against anyone. The bigger the occasion, the better they play. And Freo, we think, is really starting to grow into one of the big clubs, but that surprises me. Well, genuinely does.
Sydney have had, they conceded 61 inside 50s against Geelong, and the Hawks kicked 18 goals from 53 entries. So there were different concerns on different occasions, but it just shows you that sometimes what we see is not actually reality.